Howdy y'all, Stephen Lee here. I'm the founder of Dufrane. I do all of the actual assembly of each piece, as well as design them and ship them, and take the trash out here in the shop. But all the assembly is done here, so I wanted to share actually putting together a customer's Barton Springs tube. So I use the Swiss-made Ronda mechanical movement. It's a fantastic movement, very robust, very reliable. But the first step is to actually place the dial onto the movement itself. There's two little feet that actually affix into the dial or into the movement, and there's a couple of screws that hold it down. The next step is then to actually place the handsets. The first one being the hour hand. Simply use a handset pressing tool and press it onto the pinion to the proper position, making sure it's level. Then add the hour hand, making sure they're aligned, so straight up north and south, both of them at 12 o'clock to make sure that it's properly aligned. And then the second hand is also then applied. It's not imperative to put the second hand at a specific position, just simply because it's a hacking movement. It's what it's called, so it can be changed. You can stop the watch and set the time specifically and perfectly to what you want. But the next step is to clean the case underneath the glass and actually house and case the movement into the watch itself. So I make sure I use Rodico to clean everything on the dial and underneath the crystal. I use a movement holder. The Barton Springs uses an alloy movement holder. A couple of screws affix the movement holder to the movement, and thereby the case, the movement holder, all basically one piece. Next step is to actually cut the stem to the proper length to ensure that when you screw down that crown, it actually pops out to the proper position, so you can manually wind and then change your time and date settings if you have a date window. So there's a lot of precise measurement with that, so that's why I use that tool to actually ensure that stem is the proper length. Then I use some silicone grease to actually coat a fine little coat of silicone on the actual gaskets themselves to ensure that there's a lot of water integrity. Then the next step would be to tighten the case down and put that bezel in the right position. But before I do that, I always time it, so I wanted to show just kind of how I go through the timing process. I try to time these things to around, plus or minus 8 seconds a day. I use different positions. I typically get them out the door around +2, +3, so they're pretty accurate. And that can always be adjusted, and these are fantastic movements to do that. You can see there's a little screwdriver precision screwdriver that I use to actually adjust that timing out. And like I say, when I try to get them out the door around, call it +2 or so, you'll see the small little variations I go through in order to get that time properly. So hope you enjoyed it, and hope the customer does as well.